you, Ms. Goodness Obia. You're a wonderful co-mentor, always there to help. Thank you for the privilege of talking to this esteemed body of teachers, because you're highly esteemed, even if you don't see yourself in that light. Thank you so much.
We're talking about 21st century learning. And I asked, what is 21st century learning? We'll recall as teachers and educators that with the pandemic in 2020, we had to go into remote learning. And quite a number of us were not equipped for those times. Those who were equipped at that time cashed out on that, because I know someone in our body, an association, that cashed out because she was reaching out to a lot of people in the Northeast, the Northwest, the South. She cashed out. So the question is, what is 21st century learning? It's more than acquiring knowledge. It's about developing skills, values, and attitudes. This means pupils, students must be able to learn, adapt to change and different circumstances and situations, just like the one I mentioned. Because a lot of school owners and a lot of teachers were not equipped. It took us unawares, except those who were already practicing using 21st century learning methodologies in their schools. So the question then is, how does this work? How does it work for us now? Because we're still operating the traditional methods, but then the global landscape has changed. So how does this work for us? It's a shift in the educational from the traditional methods of the past to a more modern approach. Would you agree or you wouldn't agree? It's much more modern. Right now, I'm talking to you. I happen to be in Lagos. I live in Port Harcourt, but I'm in Lagos right now. And I'm talking to you in Delta, in Benue, mainly. This only could have happened through technology, which is 21st century device for learning, for communicating, for educating, for entertaining, and all that it entails. It focuses on preparing pupils, students for the future by teaching them skills they need to be successful in an ever-changing global economic landscape. Why do I say that? I have a son who is right now studying in Mauritius. And in his school, because I interact with my children a lot. And he said, Mom, they taught us something. I said, what's that? They don't do tests for information. They don't do tests. They are project-based, presentation-based. And then he said they sat them in class one day and one of the lessons. I said to them, you're foreign students. Assuming you were given 15,000 Mauritian rupees and you had to spend on your accommodation, transportation, feeding, and all of that, what would you do? This was using 21st century methods, because there's collabo, there's teamwork, to solve real life problems. It's a global economic landscape, and it's ever changing. Change in 21st century. It's that the 21st century has witnessed significant changes in learning due to several key factors. First, the advancement in technology, particularly the internet. You're watching me now because I have data, you have data. You're on Facebook, I'm on Facebook. You're on WhatsApp, I'm on WhatsApp. You're on Twitter, you're on LinkedIn. It's as a result of advancements in technology and the internet and our mobile devices. Like I'm using my mobile device right now. You are also using that, or even your laptop or your iPads. And they have revolutionized access to information and enabled online learning platforms, making education more accessible and flexible. The course on which I got to know goodness was an online course, the University of Buckingham IDE program. If I hadn't been on that program, I wouldn't have met her. But thankfully, I was on that program, and she also was on that program, and I was able to meet her. Secondly, there's a growing understanding that Conventional educational models frequently fall short in providing students with the skills required in the modern workplace, which is fueling a trend towards more experiential and skill-based learning methods. If you don't equip your children, you don't equip your students, where do you think they'll be in the marketplace? They'll be left back maybe, well, farming, there's nothing wrong with farming, but a lot of them will not make their mark if they cannot get jobs anyway. They won't be able to take care of themselves. They'll become dependent. Like we have a lot of students now graduating from school, and now they say some have waiting jobs for themselves. Third, the value of cross-cultural and global competency in education has risen as a result of globalization and interconnection of the world. Okay, why do I say a lot of our students, a lot of our pupils are all over the world right now? You have to learn other people's cultures for you to also to be able to use technology, to be able to understand people, their interracial marriages. Like a few days ago, or should I say a few months ago, I was watching on YouTube how the Nordics wash clothes. Do you know, I raised up my hand and I said, thank you, Lord Jesus. This lady had some kind of sharp knife at the edge of a stick, which she used to chop off around the ice to create space for her to be able to see water. Then she dumped the clothes into the water. And then was like, Lord God, and she was wearing a shirt. I don't like cold particularly. So I was imagining, how could she have coped? But because she's used to that environment, that changed my perspective. I'm like, oh God, the things I've taken for granted. But this, now I understand the culture of that place. So now I won't say, no, nobody washes clothes like that. Now I know better. So you need to be equipped to be able to prepare them to work anywhere in the world, in China, in Hong Kong, name it. Cultures are different. So if I understand you, I'll be able to appreciate you and have a relationship with you. And then it will build teams, better teams, working together. Because if I'm Chinese, you're African, and we understand each other's culture, because we have learned that through the internet, through globalization, it will make life easy for us. Fourth, the speed of innovation and change across a range of industries necessitate ongoing learning and flexibility, fostering a lifelong learning attitude. We're learning editing. I learned how to edit. We have a webinar coming up soon on the IDE webinar, that's University of Buckingham webinar on where they train us, further train us. They're going to teach us how to do PowerPoint presentations. So we need that now, because if I have to talk to you, I have to be able to prepare my slides to be able to come across with the message, with the information I need to get across to you. This is just one of those things. People sit in their houses, create things, create content. I can sit in my room now and maybe decide to talk about cooking soups and cooking God knows what, how to fix laces, how to fix wigs. We are all learning that. Is changing 24/7. Every day I go and I'm in, oh God, this is new. I'm learning something new. And that's we as educators must do. Okay, and it's placing focus on social responsibility and sustainability education due to environmental sustainability concerns and societal challenges. But you see, because it is also so fast, it's a challenge for us teachers. We have not been able to collaborate as peers. We've not been able to do a lot of that with the lesson notes we have to write, with the things that we have to do to be able to teach those children and bring them to the level which they need to be brought to. Because you see, even if we have to teach them teamwork, assuming you're teaching nursery and you have children in the class and you want them to work as a team, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, yes, you might not call it technology, but you can teach them teamwork, which is part of the 21st century skill that they must imbibe. You can have letters, numbers, shapes in the container. They have team A, team B, team C, maybe in a large tray or something. Then say team A, pick out all the shapes. Team B, pick out all the alphabet. Team C, pick out all the numbers. It could be the vowel sounds. It could be number 1 to 10. It could be shapes. You could have 6 or 7 shapes. but then you are teaching them how to collaborate, to work together, because it's needed in everything that we do. Okay, yesterday the first speaker, Miss Andrea Doga, mentioned something, and someone had asked a question about how to teach literacy alongside teaching science. My husband is a lecturer. So what he does, because he lectures in the university, and he said they're bereft of English, literacy, understanding, because those were foundational issues they had growing up and going to school. He now teaches them chemistry or chemical engineering and then teach them English, because it comes back to tell us. So you have to find a way to adapt. Anything that we do, we have to find a way to adapt. Yes, it's about highlighting a wide range of skills and competencies. 21st century learning goes beyond historical focus. It's no longer maths, writing, and arithmetic. For me, it posed a challenge at some point because my learning didn't have any relevance. I was just learning, I was going to school, but it just didn't add up, so it didn't make any sense to me. But now, it includes adaptation. How do you adapt your class, like I mentioned the nursery example? At that age, you adapt it for them. Adapt it to suit your situation. We all don't have internet facilities where we are, but we can find ways where we can do certain things. Working as a team. Mrs. Unam said something. She worked with her teacher. That might not be 21st, but that is teamwork. Worked with her teacher to help a child who had misbehavior challenges. That was a team working together to achieve a goal, which was that to make sure that he started behaving appropriately, not misbehaving. Because he saw the people being logically appreciated, he too wanted to be appreciated. And so he decided to do the right things, helped by Mrs. Unam and the class teacher. Thank you, Mrs. Unam, for that. Computer literacy. We must all know how to at least type. We must type our assignments. We as students on the UBA stands for University of Buckingham, IDE, we had to send in reports online on a computer. We had reporting templates. You had to report. So if you didn't have computer skills, you just had to go and learn. So even if you don't have it right now, please start doing something about it. It's never late to start. You can start now. And critical thinking and doing things creatively. Okay, I'm sitting down in Lagos. My laptop is not here. I had to think of a way out to solve this. I had to engage someone. I said, you need to be able to do this for me because I don't have my laptop here. My son is always in his laptop because he's on the laptop 24/7. He's been raised now to work in that digital space that's been created because of 21st century learning. So I had to think of a way out. I worked on some templates, on some slides, and I sent it to this guy and I said, please, could you do this? Because I had to think of a way out. How do I do this? If my laptop were here, it's different. And like I said, it's more than reading, it's more than writing and arithmetic. Because you can't use, yes, you need arithmetic to solve problems. There's functional maths, there's functional English, because you need English to be able to speak in your workplace. Functional maths, if you learn it now, it's not because you want to just learn for the sake of learning, you apply it in everything that you do. Because you need functional arithmetic or maths for you to be able to drive, for you to be able to cook. You can't use a whole packet of salt to pour into a pot of soup because you should know what should be adequate for a pot of soup. For 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, you should know, depending on the kind of cooking. So you need to be able to read so you can read recipes. You need to be able to read so you can know what functions to follow. What is this asking to do? You must do that. You need all of that. But besides needing these 3 hours, you need to be able to go ahead, move with the times, move with the seasons, move with what's happening in the world right now. I was in university when they were saying the world had become a global village. I mean, like I was sharing with someone this morning and I said, I started hearing how many years ago, more than 30 years ago, and it's always been a global village. It's been proved now. In the 21st century, learners and educators face a multitude of challenges brought about by rapid technological advancements. Would you agree with that or not? Evolving societal norms and changing workforce demands. A lot of people now don't get jobs because they are not prepared for it. Even during my time when I went to university, I mean, you could get a job at the drop of a pin. I mean, if you had an uncle, you had an auntie somewhere, you didn't have to have the skills. But right now, you can sit in your house, get a job, work from home remotely, work. I mean, I could be in Lagos. Okay, like I'm in Lagos now, working remotely and talking to you remotely. So even if I was being paid for it, I would have gotten my pay from here. I don't need to be on site. So you need to move with the changing workforce demands because you must have soft skills, you must have computer skills, you must have digital skills, technological skills. You need all of that, digital literacy, all of that to be able to work in the global economic landscape that's been presented to us. However, as dedicated educators and administrators, we are committed to adapting to these challenges and embracing innovation to provide the best possible education for our students. This starts with you. This starts with me. Some of us might work in schools that can't afford it, but you can make a difference. Like Mrs. Franca said, you're a co-creator with God. Why don't you be that birth person to bring out that potential in a child? Yes, it may involve you bringing out your own monies to be able to ensure that works. But that's why you're a teacher. Are you a commercial teacher or a teacher from heart? Like Mrs. Chinyere has said to us. She started teaching from home, from school, from university. Now she has people in all spheres of life, in the professional sector. I'm sure some are entrepreneurs by now. But she sowed a seed. It gives her so much joy because she sits back and says, oh God, thank you. I was able to pour into these young men and women. And that's the testimony that she has. So you can also do that, even if you live or work in an environment that has not provided that. Work on yourself and bring about that change. How can we incorporate 21st learning century teaching into our curriculum? Our curriculum has to change to reflect a move towards student-centered, experiential learning methods that prioritize digital literacy, problem solving. The essence of digital literacy now is to solve problems creatively. How can you use it to solve problems? And critical thinking, because you must critically think everything. If you're stuck, assuming you're in a bus, yellow buses, what do they call them in Lagos? More before BRT buses, and the bus broke down on the road, and you needed to be at an appointment. Would you sit and be waiting for the bus conductor to refund your change, which they will hardly do, or critically think of a way out to make sure you beat the time to be able to meet up with your appointment? So everything involves critical thinking. Everything that we do, you must critically think. Incorporating technology as a tool for research, because we must continue to research. We use our laptops to do research. You want to write a paper, you go to ResearchGate, where you have copious amounts of research on different topics done by authors and researchers. Some work as a team. We are working as a team right now. And creativity is important because you see, Miss Good News is Miss Good News, Miss Chinyere is Chinyere, and she said something that touched me, and I'm like, oh, I said something about perspective. She changed my perspective of classroom behavior management. I'm like, whoa. She gave her perspective. I picked it up. I'm like, yes, I would apply that in my own classroom. But we are working as a team. We're all different. Like we have the pinky finger, the index finger, the ring finger, but we all have different functions. But we can come together to work as a team and to train students so that they can use everything that we learn appropriately. Interdisciplinary and practical application of knowledge are fostered by project-based learning and encouragement of multidisciplinary studies. Let's assume you want to teach maths, but you know you can do it in a way that I call web mapping. You can teach maths in geography, maths in culture, teach it. That is a multidisciplinary way of handling anything at all. You're thinking beyond yourself. It involves you thinking beyond yourself, doing that research, going the extra mile. You are a co-creator with God. So you're not going to just sit back and say, okay, this is what the school gave me, this is what I'm going to work with. No, you will go beyond yourself to be able to do that. And it only comes to working as a team, because if you don't have the answer, call someone else. Work together, get answers. How can you do this? You have this, I have this, that person has this other. Put it all together and you can come up with an answer. Last but not least, we should foster soft skills like collaboration. What Ms. Goodness did today is to make sure us collaborate. What we are doing too is communicating and flexibility alongside traditional discipline helps students get ready for the dynamic challenges, because we still do some traditional things. But we must do it with 21st century technology in mind, knowing that that is the way forward. Prepare every boy, every girl, every child from nursery school. Yes, adapt it. That's what we talked about, adaptation. Adapt it. Like I said, teach them to do that. We can teach them with gamification. We have Jolly Phonics now as games whereby you can start teaching them to, but come to think of it, children these days are a lot more adaptable to things like, during my time, we used the handheld phone where you dial zero, whatever you have to dial and you say hello. But now even a child knows that you can minimize, you can maximize your phone space and then come up with the things you can come up with. So it is not difficult for any child to learn at whatever age. Start, but adapt it to suit that child. Thank you. But my final take home, as educators, we must prepare students for the 21st century by providing opportunities for them to develop 21st century skills. Ultimately, we must commit to giving our students the learning deserve, the way they will learn, the tools they need to thrive in these challenging times, and having the wherewithal to succeed in whatever they choose to do, academic or skill-based. Thank you.